But what I found out is that the success in the profession as a doctor is not how much money you have. It's how much service have you provided to people.
Wow. You're welcome to our podcast show today, The Voyage, the transitions, the trials, and the triumphs of immigrants in the US. This is going to be a fantastic show, and you don't want to miss any segment of the show today. It's going to be fun, it's going to be exciting, it's going to be inspiring, and there is a lot for you to learn in our show today. I have a wonderful guest in the house today. It's very close to my heart. We'll call him Dr. John. Dr. John Adewomi is my guest on our show today. Please, can you introduce yourself and tell us more about yourself, sir?
I'm Dr. John Adewomi. I practice general practice and preventive medicine in Nashville area, downtown Nashville.
Can you tell us a little bit about your background? How was life growing up in Nigeria for you?
Okay. Actually, mine is a little bit different from most people. Nigeria is my beloved country. I love Nigeria very well. All my life, I was in Nigeria from elementary school, and I finished high school in Nigeria. And at that time, they were taking like JAM. That was post-time JAM came on, so we moved to universities. Traditionally, I wanted to study medicine, and but when I applied to UI, at that time, they said, well, you know, in those days, you have to know somebody to get into medicine in Nigeria. So I was admitted for biochemistry. My dad was living in the United States at that time as a student in the 70s.
Okay.
So when he came, I said, oh, are you going to be a doctor? I said, I want to be a doctor, but I got admission for biochemistry. My dad was very upset.
Wow.
He said, well, they said, I need to go talk to somebody. He said, well, I'm not going to talk to anybody. Instead of him talking to somebody, I'm just going to send him to America.
Interesting.
It was very interesting. I was young then. I was like 70, 80. And everybody was crying, they were upset that I was going to America. No. That's how I ended up in
the US.
the US. Those days was very much easier. Okay, all you have to do is get admission, pay your school fees, which was then, Nigeria Naira was very strong. You can't believe it. At that time when I left, when I paid my school fees in 79, in Naira was $2.1.
What? You mean that 1 Naira to $1 in 79 was $2.1.
Yeah.
And we are talking of $1 to about 15 or 1600 now.
So it
Wow.
was like my school fees then, I remember to Bishop College was $7,500. It was 3,500 Naira.
Wow.
You know,
That's
so it was much easier to be a student then, and most people are being encouraged to come to school overseas because that particular time, Nigeria was considered a very wealthy country.
okay.
So most of these countries, they owe Nigeria so much money, so they encourage the Nigerian students. You know, so that's how I came to Bishop College. But my surprise was on my F21, they said you are studying medicine.
Okay.
I was really surprised when I came to school in the United States. The way they studied medicine was different. So I thought I'd just go like Nigeria, get my MBBS, 5 years.
I did.
But to my surprise, they said, well, in America, you have to have your post-degree first, then take an exam to go to medical school.
I see.
Right? And what really baffled me was not taking the exam. In those days, in Texas, 10% had to be out of town
Okay.
to be admitted to medical school,
Okay.
and 1% out of the country.
Okay.
So to really get you to go from out of state or out of the country to go to medical school is very, very stringent, I'd say. And bear in mind, when I came on student visa.
Okay.
So which means you are not a resident, you are not a citizen, so your chance of going is practically zero.
Zero. Wow.
So we have to find another way out to say, okay, how do I complete what I've started? You know, I did a bachelor in science, pre-med. Now to get to medical school, I have to find another route around.
So you told us that it was your dad that encouraged you to move to the US. So yours in 79 was different from all of the Japa stories that we hear today of people in search of greener pastures.
Mine was not a courage, it was a punishment.
Really? Your coming to the US was a punishment?
Yes, because if I've gone into medicine in Nigeria, and now I will have to do that, then you will leave for me to leave. Because when I was living, it was like Japa now.
Okay.
I was living, my grandmother, my mom, everybody was crying.
What?
But it was like why are you sending this boy to a place that there's nobody there? So it was a different story. Some people that just want to leave because something was wrong.
Can you paint a picture for us of your first few weeks in the US? You came when you were about 17, 18, you don't know anybody. What was it like? What state did you arrive in? Coming out of the plane, what was the experience like for you?
I came in January, which was snowing.
Okay.
I arrived in New York.
Okay.
Now, when I came outside, the first time I was seeing snow.
Okay.
Snowing everywhere. So when I get out, I saw the snow. Actually, I pick it up to see what it looked like. I said, oh, this is interesting. Look. So I've read about it, but I never seen one.
I too.
And unfortunately for me, I missed my flight because of the snow.
Okay.
So my connection to Texas was broken.
Wow.
So they have to put us in an hotel.
Okay.
So we stay on the hotel overnight in New York and all. But the airline was very good then. It's not like now. People are very, very friendly. They know you are new in town and everything. So the hotel, the airline helps a lot. Put me in the hotel. Second day, they give me breakfast. They woke me up. They took me back to the airport. Then I arrived in Texas.
I wonder what it was like, picking snow on the floor. A snow that you've never seen before.
Yeah, it was amazing. I was just looking at it. And luckily for me, my dad lives there. He lived there. So he already gave me a boot. I have a boot.
Okay.
So I don't really feel cold because he always tell me, you're going there, it's going to be cold. He didn't say anything about snow. He heard that it's going to be cold. So I was really dressed for it.
Interesting. So what will you consider to be your biggest shock when you arrive there, or an awkward story, considering the culture in Nigeria, considering the lifestyle? What will you consider to be one of the cultural shock for you being in the US?
Nigerians in those days, they're very together.
Okay.
So my dad gave me a number of one of his friends to call. He's an Igbo man. Very nice guy. Was a doctor, Dr. Obi. And he picked me up in the air. I said, oh, I'm tired. I was there, you for son. I was there. I'll be there to pick you up. He came to the airport, picked me up. So I have to stay with him because the school was no.
Okay.
The school was on recess. So I stayed there for 2 weeks until the school opened. But luckily for me, I went to a black institution.
Okay.
So I wasn't like a shock when I get to the school because everybody was black.
Look like you.
They all look like. Now, although they speak differently than I do, so I was talking so fast, nobody understand what I was talking. But the shock of being in a place where there's nobody that wasn't there because all of them was black. And then the Nigerians that I met here, they were elderly people. They're very nice. They will sit you down and talk to you. You are in America now. This is what they do here. This is what they don't do. They encourages you because most of them are here just to go to school and live. They already intending to stay in America. So they encourage us. They help us how to behave. And the food was not very appetizing. So those elderly people, they say, well, just come to my house anytime. You can
eat your Nigerian food.
I eat on Nigerian food now. Get me? The Nigerian food there was not the Nigerian food that we eat now.
Okay. So you mean even in the early 70s, early 80s, the Nigerian food that are available in the US then is different from what is available now?
Nigerian food was not available in the US.
Okay.
We have to made up for the food.
I see.
Take for instance, now you can get pounded yam, right?
You go to the store, right?
See pounded yam.
Okay.
See gari.
Okay.
None of those were available.
Wow.
So we have to use like biscuit.
Okay.
Or masa to make fufu like or pounded yam like food.
Wow.
So it's quite different.
That's interesting.
So we have to make it all to make it look like the food that we used to eat.
Wow.
But the soup, you can always make your soup.
Yeah.
We use the spinach and everything, the okra, then we cook it our own way, and that's how we get some Nigerian things of it.
That is interesting. So you just talk about how you have to improvise the food here. Does that make you to miss Nigeria? The fact that you don't have the food that you are accustomed to in Nigeria to eat them here?
Well, the first time you eat biscuit as a fufu, it tastes different. After a while, you get used to it. No, but the soup is good.
Okay.
Make our own soup and everything. So, but you miss all.
Yeah,
it is much different.
Interesting. If you are to look back now and give an advice to your first self when you arrive, in the early 80s, at 79, what advice will you give to yourself, assuming you're just arriving to the US now?
Well, things have changed
Okay.
because at that particular time, I don't have an intention of staying here.
So when you came to the US, you do not have the intention to stay here. Wow.
I never have intention of staying here, but let's say I have an intention of staying here from the first day I arrived. I have done things
differently. How many years have you been in the US now?
Well, about 45 years.
45 years. But when you first came, you did not have the intention of staying.
Staying.
Oh my goodness.
I have an intention of staying because if I have an intention of staying, I have done things a lot differently.
Hmm.
So which means the first 10 years, I was still not planning to stay.
Say,
When the Nigeria started going bad, things are not improving, and things are getting worse, then that's why I changed the plan. So, but if you are coming to stay, your plan will be different.
true.
Which means in those, for example, houses are very cheap there. You can easily tell your parent or take money from home now. Nigeria at that particular time, they pay us bursary, state bursary.
Wow, you mean
In
the
the-
government send you money then?
Government send me money.
Wow.
18 years old, 19 years old. Sometimes I get like $9,000, $12,000 from home.
From the Nigerian government.
Now, if I intend to stay here, then I can easily buy me a house.
Wow.
That's what I'm saying. But how much is the house in Texas? $35,000, I can buy you a home. But if I have intention of staying, I'll buy 1 or 2, 3 homes. I'll probably be billionaire by now. That's what I'm saying. But my intention was not to stay, so I don't even think of investing in anything. I want to finish my school
And go back.
and go back.
So talking about your transitions, adapting to the economy, to the culture here, like you said, you did not have the intention of staying. At what point did you eventually discover that, wow, it is time for me to adjust and stay here in this country? What makes you to have that change of mind?
Now,
And at what point?
well, when like I told you, it was hard getting to medical school here. So, but I have a very nice chairman of my department, a black American guy. They said, well, John, you are so smart. You can go to school outside the country, and then you can come back here. Okay. So they help you to get school into Caribbean island. He said, when you do that, then you can take the exam again, and then you can come back in. So that's what I did. So when I did that, at that particular point, like in 87, 88, I was thinking of still going home.
Okay.
So when I went for my clinicals, I went to England, but I said, well, America is different, medicine is a little bit different. But if I do my clinicals in England, I can easily go back home because England and Nigeria,
They're similar.
Right.
Okay.
So I was trying to do that. And then when I came back in, things was getting so bad in Nigeria. And one thing that you have to understand is that as a young man then, you have to have girlfriend and everything. I didn't have a girlfriend when I was in Nigeria. I also finished high school. In Nigeria, you can't talk about yes, no. But I've been here so much that I don't really understand. I can't get along with them as much. So I started dating Americans, and I feel more comfortable. For me, because I grew up with them now in school. We go out to do things together. And after that, I started getting to say, okay, maybe I can get somebody here,
Okay.
So that's what really changed my mind.
Oh, it is relationship
Yeah.
that actually made you to change your mind and stay permanently here in the US. Well, that leads us to that question then. Yes, like you said, at that your stage in the 70s, at 17, 18 years old, it is not welcome for you to have a girlfriend or to you to be dating. So when you compare the family culture, the family values, marriage and parenting in Nigeria and also here in the US, how do you think things have evolved? What would be your takeaway when you compare those things?
The parents in Nigeria, maybe for some of us, it help us.
Okay.
Because our parents are very strict. They are very strict, and they put more importance on education. And the only thing is, we are restricted in saying some word you can't say. You can't express yourself as much. Because it's what they want you to do. This is what you have to do. If they want to ask questions, you do it first. Now,
Obey first and then complain.
you can complain later. It depends on how the mood that your parents are in. If they're in good mood, you can complain later, and they can explain to you. If they're in the bad mood, you just keep your mouth shut. So I think that's one thing that really was not really good with parenting in Nigeria, because we are not allowed to express ourselves all the time. But parenting here is a little bit different. Now that we have kids and they are growing up, things that we should have been doing that we don't do, now we want to allow our kids to do it so we can see what is going on.
Wow. You said it was when you started having a relationship here, that is when that changed your mind to actually stay. What would be your comparison when it comes to marriage and values? Comparing the value on marriage in Nigeria and the value of marriage here in the American culture.
Personally, the American culture was much easier.
Okay.
Was much easier because it's like one-on-one. It's how you feel about that particular person that really matters.
Okay.
They don't take much into consideration about your parent or this and that. Because it's you and the girl.
Okay.
You love one another and then you can just walk through whatever it is together. You don't get that much interference from your in-laws.
I'd say.
No. But in Nigeria, sometimes the interference can be too much. Not only that, they put a lot of responsibilities that you can't handle at that age on you as a man. And sometimes on the female too as a young person. Because if you have a society where not all of us in Nigeria, but most Nigerians, they depend on their siblings, their kids do things for them, train. They depend on their kids, I'm old now, I'm retired now, they have to take over all my responsibilities, right? Which means it falls on you. Now, when you are building your own family, and then you have to be supporting them, that can be overwhelming for some people, But in American life, it's not that bad. But most of the parents of your wife or your husband, they have their own job, they have their own retirement. So all you have to do is just supplement. So the stress is not as much.
Okay. So do you think that the marriage, that the values and the culture in Nigeria sustain marriages more than here in the US or vice versa?
Nigeria, yes. Nigeria can be more sustainable because there's a Yoruba proverb that says that a needle that has a thread can easily be found.
A needle that has a thread can easily be found. Okay. Tell us the meaning, sir.
What I mean is that when you have a needle, you see the family knows families.
Yes.
Nigerian, you know your in-laws. Your in-laws know you deeply. You know uncles, everybody's involved in your marriage. So if there's a problem, you can easily go to any of them and say, look, I'm having a problem with my wife or I'm having a problem with my husband. And they can intervene and help you out. In America, it's not like that. If you don't have in-laws that are close to you, it's just you and your wife. And sometimes being young, you can make irrational decisions.
True.
And that tends to break up things that you're supposed to put up with and let the problem get over. You can get over that problem, put up with it for a little while. You don't want to do that. You don't want to just go, this is enough, let me just go.
Yeah,
there's somebody to really advise you to pull you back and say, look at it this way, And I think that's one of the reasons why sometimes having somebody or an anchor to talk to our problems make Nigerian marriages a little bit more stable.
So in essence, all cultures have their own positives and negatives. Because earlier on, we were talking about how family interference can be a negative thing in a marriage. But at the same time, the family interference can also help, can also keep it together.
Definitely.
Interesting. So it's about keeping the balance. Interesting. Just talking with you, I realized that you still have a very strong love for Nigeria. You said earlier on, Nigeria, my home. So how did you balance keeping your African roots, your Nigerian roots alive while embracing the American culture?
Well, there's so many ways of doing that. You have to identify your own identity. Some people, I remember when I first came, when I was doing my residency with VA hospital, and we have a speech therapist, right?
Okay.
And they told to help you so that you can speak more eloquently.
Change your accent.
So, and I went to the lady and he said, Dr. John, what do you want to do? I said, I understand I'm here to change my accent. I said, I'm not here to change my accent. I said, that's one thing the only thing I have right now, my accent. I said, what I want you to help me do is to teach me, make sure that people can understand me better.
Okay.
So when I communicate, they can understand. I'm not here to change my accent. And it was really was surprised. He said, well, most of them want to speak American. I said, no, I don't want to speak Americans. I want to be able to speak for me to be understood. I want to hold on to my identity.
Wow.
Now, some people might look at it as foolishness, but to me, I don't want to I'm who I am.
Mm.
No.
So you are proud of your heritage, that regardless of how long you've been in the US, regardless of the thick accent, as people will say, you don't want to lose that. Yes, but you want to find a way to communicate and to be understood, but to still maintain your unique identity.
Definitely. I don't want to lose my identity. Now, the thing we have to understand is that if you see a Japanese man, right, he speaks to be understood. A Chinese man speaks to be understood. You still know they are Chinese.
Very
The
true.
Chinese. Why do you want to lose your identity? That's who you are. And America is not a nation of just one person. It's a nation of nations.
Correct. So does that not make people feel that maybe you are arrogant?
No, it's not arrogancy. And an average American, when they go somewhere, they don't change their accent.
Very true. That's very true. So why should we do? That is interesting. So at what point did you now begin to feel that, wow, I'm now officially an American now? Maybe you are now getting used to the food, to the music, and to the lifestyle here.
Well, one thing is, as an immigrant, it's hard to say you are fully American, represent Americans. But there's still part of you that doesn't go with the flow. There's some things that an average American will do that you still hesitate to do it because the way you are raised up, the way you carry yourself, the way you respond to people. So there's some things that is already inbuilt in you. Yes, you accustom yourself to the environment, but there's still some things. Take for instance, the way we approach elderly, you talk to them, the way we respect them in our culture. I'm not going to change that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So I don't want to say, I have to be rude to an elderly person because now I'm an American. No. I still have to pay the respect the way I was taught.
Now, there is something I heard recently that a lot of immigrants, especially maybe Africans or Nigerians, that even though they are here in the US, but their body is here in the US, but their spirit soul is back in Nigeria because they still feel so much attached to the things going on in Nigeria. And the unfortunate thing here is that they are not fully embraced here in the US, and also back at home, they are disconnected from the realities to a large extent. And so do you not see that as a kind of a dilemma that, well, you are not 100% here and you are not 100% back there at home as well?
That's true, but we have to understand that where you live is a home.
Okay.
Because tomorrow is not promised to anybody. My advice is that when you are here, you live here, do what you have to do here. This is your home. You live here now. You pay taxes here, you have your rights here. So you do that. Then if you have to go back over there, then you adjust when you go over there. But for you to put everything back there and you are living here halfway, you are not really doing justice to yourself. So if you are here, live as you are here. Live life one day at a time as you are here and enjoy your life here, everything you are here.
Let's move to our next section and talk about the trials, the struggles, and the hard lessons. Every immigrant face a particular seasons in their life where they go through the struggles and the hard lessons. Can you describe moment that you say, wow, what have I gotten myself to? What was the hard struggles or hard lessons that you will say you learn? What was the experience like? Can you share one or two instances with us?
This is a country of law. Most of us who have come from Nigeria, Nigeria, I'm sorry to say this.
We are lawless.
Those days, lawless was.
You don't enforce the law.
You can get away with a lot of stuff.
Okay.
You can get away with a lot of stuff. You make some mistakes, you can beg somebody, and they forgive you.
Yeah.
I remember the first thing that really shocked me was having a credit or owing somebody. It's not in our nature.
That's true.
In Nigeria. I remember I was in college and I bought a car and I shouldn't have done it, but I did anyway because I had to buy me a fast car and everything. My friend was upset, but I can give me a part-time job and I bought the car. So it's only in Nigeria you can beg people that, don't pick up my car, I will be 2 or 3 days late.
Yes.
So my friends tell me, your car note is due. I said, my car note is due. I said, don't worry, nothing is going to happen. I thought it was like Nigeria where you can just go and then you can beg them and everything. And I was like, maybe 10 days late. And then one day I just woke up, I went to visit a friend. I was really surprised because I didn't know that they know where I was. So I found my car there. I woke up in the morning, the car was gone.
Wow. The car disappeared.
The car disappeared. So when I called the police said, I said, my car was stolen.
Okay.
And the guy said, your car was stolen? I said, yes. I said, it was stolen. He said, what happened? I gave police report and everything. And the police said, okay, we call around. And the police said, did you miss any payment? I said, what do you mean? I said, I said, I was 10 days late. Or it's all. I said, no, next week I'll go pay. And they said, your car will be repossessed. The car was repossessed by the people that financed it.
Wow.
So that was a shock to me.
I see.
I thought maybe
You can go and beg them now.
I beg them like we do it back home, and they say, okay, bring it tomorrow. So that was a shock to me. And then I have to learn how to build credit, which was a shock to me, to build credit, to buy things, to do all those things. And that was a really shock.
Knowing that you came to the US at a very tender age, well, 17, 18, was there ever a time that you felt like giving up? And what kept you going?
Yes, there are times, really getting into medical school was very, very difficult. I wanted to go back. And but my dad told me, is that not you want to be a doctor? I said, yeah, you stay there. So I was not really encouraged to go back.
Okay.
My dad is the type that you say you're going to do it and you're supposed to do it, he's not going to give you any chance to go back. So, and then I look at that, well, if I go back, by now achieving what I plan to achieve, I have other younger siblings. What would be? How would they be? So I was really, what really gave me the courage to go, keep on going was my family, really. But I look at it that way, what would people say? What would they say? Oh, this one is a failure. How can I go all the way from Nigeria and then go back without finishing? And my mate in Nigeria, those days, you look at your high school mate, they already finished there. They already died. So how am I going to tell them? So I have to really say, well, not only to disappoint myself, but I don't want to disappoint my people.
The people back at home.
So and that really gave me the strength to keep on going.
Keep going. One challenge that immigrants face generally. So you came here on a student visa, and then a lot of people face different challenges securing their legal status or housing or employment. Did you face any racial discriminations or any biases? And what were the lessons that you learned? Can you describe, instances like that?
The time I came was a different time. Americans are very friendly.
Okay.
People are very nice. There are always a way out. They will tell you, these are your choices, are your chances. We get a lawyer will tell you, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. It's not like now. I think at that time too, they have the feeling that, as well as most Nigerian that comes there, they are here temporarily. When they finish school, they become important, right?
I'd say.
And the schools or the work that you are doing, they can help you those days to change your visa. But once they know that you are useful, they will encourage you to stay. And some of the struggle I have, some of my professors then, they will encourage you to do research work, right? And we are doing research work. In research work, they say, we are very good. They can go to the immigration for you and help you. No, then most of you that came then, they came as a student, right? And they're involved in school activities. Say, unlike now that you just came, want to make money and go home. So there are so many options then for you to change your
status.
And mine was a little bit different because now I dated, I get married.
Okay.
In a different way.
Interesting. So will you say you did not face any form of discrimination or any biases either, even while you were dating or when you are to work or at the medical school or even with your patient? Is there any form of discrimination or biases from people?
Oh, definitely.
Okay. Tell us about that.
I always tell my kids now, I said, America is a country of law. Now, this is my personal opinion. Now I apply to everybody, but laws are interpreted differently.
True.
The way they interpret the law for Caucasians, my opinion is different from the way they interpret the same law, a person, and then for immigrants. So you have to look at it two ways. You have to do much, much, much more. Say, for instance, we are in a classroom and they ask you a question. I was just telling my wife this morning, and you said the same answer. You said the same correct answer. The instructor will look at you and said, where. And somebody else of a different race raised up their hand said exactly the same thing.
Exactly the same thing.
So yes, you got it.
Wow.
Really, I just said the same thing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you find out that here there is discrimination. You explain where you go. And then when you make an error, it tends to exaggerate your errors.
Hmm.
You know, so it's there. Depending on individuals and who you
Relate with.
relate with. You know, it's always there.
Now, let's move to the next section, talking about the triumphs, the wins, and the success stories. You are a medical doctor now, and you've been practicing for so many years. What will you consider to be your proudest achievement as an immigrant?
There's one thing that I'm pretty proud of.
Okay.
As an immigrant, my proudest achievement is raising my children.
Hmm.
Seriously. But all other things is within my control. But things that you succeed in that is it's not, you have no control over it. Yours, that one to me is the hardest thing to do. So raising my children actually is one of the priorities that I don't. Medical school, everybody can go to school. You can sit down and study. But to raise a child that can take care of themselves, and they don't have to worry about if something happens to you today, will they survive or will they be okay? I think I bring my this one. Really.
Wow, that's coming from a father, that raising your kids, into responsible adults that they are now is your proudest achievement as an immigrant. Talking about children, are you worried that they may not be interested to maybe to go to Nigeria or to settle in Nigeria? What are your takes on things like that? Because I know a lot of parents that will say, well, they want to take their children back to Nigeria for them to be accustomed with the cultures and the values. What's your take on things like that?
I want them to know the culture very well.
Okay.
You know, it's like a Japanese proverb, right? He said, Japanese said, you have a bird in a cage, right? He said, when the bird wants to go out, you open the door for the bird to fly,
Okay.
but you keep the door open. Inside the book.
Close the way back.
So they have a choice
Okay.
how to live their life, right? But I make sure that if they want to go back there, they can live there too. You know. And what you have to understand as an immigrant is that even though the Caucasians here, they have roots. They will tell you, oh, I remember Bill Clinton say, oh, I'm Irish, you know. Trump is German, okay. His mom is from Scotland. So all of them know their roots. So what's wrong with you as a black man know your roots?
To know your roots. What's wrong with you as a black man to know your roots? Wow.
Because all of them will tell you that, oh, my roots so came from here.
Yeah.
You know. So same thing. So you need to be familiar with your roots.
So it is important as an immigrant, even as our children, for us to introduce them to our roots and for us to let them to be proud of their roots. That is quite important. Talking about your success stories, what role will you say that the immigrant community and networking within the immigrant community play in your success?
Well, it reminds you how vulnerable you can be, you know, and also you see their struggle. You want to help them out. But a lot of immigrants make a mistake that when we stay here for so long, or we just came, we don't understand the rules. There are rules and laws here. They don't understand it. They don't know how things work. So in my profession, I enjoy trying to let them know you need this to help you in this way. You need this to help you in this way. But most immigrants does not. Take for instance, we talk about health insurance or life insurance and things like that. If you have health insurance, a lot of immigrants doesn't know that you need to have one. So you need to let them know why they need to have one, you know, why it's important and things like that. So it really help me to at least give something back to them so they can survive in this society.
Interesting. Now, talking about health, the question just comes to mind now that it is not typical for Africans, for Nigerians to say, "I want to go for a medical checkup." And being an immigrant, do you see the same practice among immigrants? And what are the disadvantages of not doing a regular medical checkup as an immigrant? And what will be your advice to our listeners?
It's very important for us to understand that we the immigrants, we're Nigerians, right? Religion is one thing,
Okay.
right? The body is not made to last forever.
Hmm.
Yes, body changes.
Okay.
As you get older, things happens. You know, most immigrants doesn't understand that. Most feel like, well, if I pray, go to church, nothing is going to happen to me. I'm not going to get sick. But forgetting that every day that you are very older, you are aging. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And we're aging, there's tendency for something to go wrong in your body. So the wisest thing to do is to get check up, right? Getting check up does not mean you do not have faith in God. You know what I'm saying? So, but a lot of us feel like where as long as I'm going to church, I'm doing everything, I don't need it. Which is wrong to me.
What will you say to this mindset of immigrants or Africans or Nigerians that I know in particular, that when they are sick, they will easily say that maybe it is somebody from Nigeria that sent me an arrow, that makes me to be sick. What's your take on things like that?
I know they're as good as evil.
Okay.
But I don't believe there's any arrows for you who have diabetes, or you have high blood pressure. Stress enough to cause high blood pressure. I think the problem we have is that we need religious leaders or pastors who can be able to advise them. Because if we look at it this way, the society here, they go to church.
Yes.
Right? They still go to their doctors for checkup. And most of the pastors, they go to their own doctor. They cannot tell you, right? But they see somebody, so they should be able to encourage their congregation to get checked up. I think they are not do them any justice by misinforming them that, oh, you don't need this, you don't need that, when some of them
They themselves are taking advantage. Wow. So as an immigrant, your medical checkup is important. Your health is important. Like the doctor said, our bodies are not meant to last forever. As you grow, the body also ages and grows. Interesting. Now, if you're going to name maybe one or two people that help you the most in your journey in the US, who will that person be and why will you mention them?
Yes, one of my mentors, when I first came to America, I know I was young. But we in Nigeria, we are very bold. And we don't do, we want something just hard. And Dr. Moshisi is an African-American guy.
Okay.
A doctor, he's a doctor. So he came to my school to give lectures. And I went to him after the lectures. And I said, Dr. Moshisi, I said, oh, that's a nice topic. I said, I enjoy your topic. I said, but where's your office? He said, my business. I said, can I follow you? Because I want to be a doctor and I'll be interested in coming and volunteer for your office. And the man was very, very, he said, okay, yeah, sure.
Wow.
So all the 2 or 3 years, my last 2 years in college, I was going there after hours. He encourages me, tell me about medicine, what to do, how to do it, take me around and everything. And that man did that for almost 2 years.
Wow.
And even though when I was very funny, when I was about to get married, and I told him I was worried. And I was worried about getting married. I said, in Nigeria, you have to go and pay
dowries
and this and that. He said, John. I said, why are you so worried? I said, I don't think I want to get married though. I said, why? I said, no, I'm not really ready. I don't have money. I don't have this. He said, John, see, this is America. He said, the woman love you. I said, yes. He said, that deal you have to do, just show up. So he really encouraged me. He said, okay, this is how this work in America. This is how this work in America. And throughout the time I was in school, he kept in contact with me, and everything. So that was really helped me out a lot to accustom to this culture here. And that thing that we immigrants lose, which I lost personally, was when I left Nigeria. You think you have so much freedom now in new fine land. I stopped going to church. There's nobody to wake you up in the morning, go to church, do this. So I wasn't doing any of those things. When stress and pressure comes, we find refuge in the Lord.
Wow.
And there's a friend of mine that introduced me to the Lord after all these years of being away from the Lord. And that really changes everything.
Wow. You mean that your relationship with the Lord gives you a turning point here in the US as well. You mentioned something quickly that I want us to talk a little bit about. I know that you are married to an African-American person. What is your take on interracial marriages, and how do you think an immigrant that is thinking of marrying somebody from here or from another country, what would be your advice and counsel in order to make a success of such kind of relationship?
Like, the first thing you have to do is you have to pray.
Okay.
You pray for it to find true love. you find true love, to me, it doesn't matter who we marry. I think the mistake we make is that we do not seek the Lord before we marry. We look at physical appearances, right, which can change.
Very true.
Change. So if you really truly love that person, they really love, and both of you love one another, the race shouldn't be.
How do you define success now compared to before you moved to the US? What is your take on what makes you to be successful? What you were hoping to achieve as a mark of success back in Nigeria and now?
Two is different.
Okay.
Because when you are growing up in Nigeria, most of us, I remember in those days, we want to be somebody or a physician or this or this.
A doctor or an engineer.
That accolade.
The prestige.
The prestige and those things. But what I found out is that the success in the profession as a doctor is not how much money you have. It's how much service I could provide to people.
Wow.
It's not what comes in every month to your bank account that makes you happy. But how much life have you seen? You get up in the morning, even though now you don't want to go to work, you feel tired, or you know that people are there that needed
Your service.
You need your service to provide them. The last thing I think about is money. I just want to go there and do what I have to do.
So right now, your definition and perception of success is about how much service are you providing to the people?
That's correct. Because in providing service to the people, whatever you need, you have enough. It's not how much is in your bank account that matters. You find out that most of the people that have money, they're not happy. So how much service are you to the people?
Wow, that's so powerful. Now, as we begin to wrap up, what one funny misconception did you come across that Americans generally have about Africans that you have encountered?
It depends on who you ask.
Okay.
I think a lot of Americans are misinformed. Now, I think it's much better now, the age of internet.
Okay.
They can go back and Google and see.
Okay.
But a lot of them have this misconception that they look at Africa as a one small thing, as a nature, not as a
continent in itself.
And they have this feeling that, those days, but I remember one story, someone asked me, oh, how long does it take to swim to get over here?
How long does it take to swim from Nigeria to the US?
Exactly. They thought maybe I swim, but you don't feel like the airplane comes to Nigeria. Nobody ever told them that there is plane in Nigeria. So I said, I swim. He said, it must be a very powerful swim. I said, yes. Because a lot of them are not informed. Back home, they taught us in high school about other countries.
Very true.
I think here, I don't think they really taught them about other countries. So a lot of them are misinformed.
If you could bring one thing from Nigeria and introduce it to the American culture or lifestyle here and make it popular, what would that thing be?
One thing. One thing I really, which I think might have a little bit, is the way might be tribal thing, but the way we Nigerians relate to elderly people. That one is something that I say is lacking. Respect for the elderly. In those days, back home, if you're in the bus, you can't be sitting down and an elderly person comes in, you help them. If they carry something, you help them. But nowadays, in this society,
even in Nigeria too, things like that have changed.
So that's what they are proud of. The respect for elderly should be there.
Okay.
Caring for the elderly should be there.
Okay.
And that's one thing where now I say it's changing in Nigeria, because the reason it's changing is because we sometimes want to emulate the West. So it's something that is bad. To me, I don't see why you should be emulating a bad culture of the society, and throw away the good one.
The good ones. So when you miss Nigeria, what is one food that comes to mind that you say, wow, I'm missing home today and I want to eat this food? Now, what is that food?
When it comes to food,
yeah,
I always eat Nigerian food. Pounded yam is one thing I always
okay.
Yes. And luckily for me, we have it here now. We don't have to use biscuit or masa.
Pounded yam with vegetable, right? Is it correct pounded yam, right?
Yeah, vegetable soup and
Is it the one that is pounded in the odo or the one you just stir the flour?
the one in order to taste different. But now I use the
The powder one.
father upon I. It's
Right.
close to what we used to have.
Interesting. So what is one myth about the immigrant journey that you would like to debunk? Because a lot of people that maybe they are just getting to the US or they are planning to come, people have different misconception or myth about life here. People think it is rosy, you possibly see money on the road or things like that. What is one myth that people don't have correct that you want
People
to
have to
correct?
understand that as an immigrant, it's much, much harder.
Hmm.
It's difficult. You work much harder than people that you meet here, from here, to make it. You have to work twice or three times as harder to make it here. Look at it this way: you don't have no support. It's just you. Is what I'm saying. It's just you, both financially and emotional support. Back home, you can stay with your uncle. You don't have to pay no rent. Here, you have to pay rent. A lot of us are not used to paying bills. You have to pay bills. You see, it's and this is a country of law and order. I think most of us are lawless back home, and it's difficult to be an immigrant because you have to look at it this way. Even though we Nigerians are unlucky because we already speak English to some extent, so we don't have to learn the language, So when you have to do all those things, it's much, much harder for you. People look at it like, well, they give you everything here. They don't give you anything here. Whatever you get in America, you have to work for it, and it's not easy to be an immigrant. If you go the right route, that's what I'm saying. You go the right route, you have to go through all the steps, and that takes time. It's not something that you just accumulate overnight. You have to work your way up there to get it.
Interesting. And the last question is this. Earlier on, you said you've been in the US for 45 years or thereabout. And what does home mean to you now? And do you still desire to relocate back to Nigeria after living here for 45 years of your life?
Yes. Personally, yes. Maybe because I miss home. I left so young.
Okay.
Now, when I listen to people that just came from Nigeria, they came to America, I'm here now, and this and that. Home is home. And I feel like and I feel like I've given a lot to America. So if I can give a little bit back to my people back home, to me, there's nothing wrong with that. Because there's so many things that I know now that we help them. Especially in my field, there's some things that we have to be able to give as much as you can give to them to help them back there.
So you desire to have opportunity to contribute back to Nigerian people in one way or the other, especially within the healthcare field?
Oh, definitely. Because like you said before, there's so much myth. Things that happen to people that you believe somebody did to you. Nobody did anything to you. It's just one of those natural things that happens. People need to be aware of. Not everybody wants to have a headache. Not everybody wants to have a high blood pressure. Not everybody wants to have diabetes. Be your way of life. There's so many things that we can debunk, that can help the future generation instead of wasting their time. With things like that.
Well, thank you so much. This has been a fun and an educative session on the voyage, the trials, the transitions, and the triumphs of immigrants in the US. Until the next episode, take care.